Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to give it another minute in case anybody else is joining. And Dan is in the chat, so if you have any questions, just drop those in the chat. Okay, cool. Let's get started. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. And also hello if you're watching the recording. Hello from the past. I'm going to get started because we don't have tons of time today, but this will be available as a recording, which we'll share out as soon as that's ready. My name's Eve, and I'm part of the client success team. And as I mentioned, I'm joined by Dan, who is in the chat as well. So if you have any questions along the way, then do drop them in the chat. But if you have a bigger question, we are going to try and make time for Q&A at the end. So if you want to save something to put me on the spot, feel free. And yeah, we'll be starting with a quick presentation covering the basics of what is 360 and how does it work. And then we'll move on to the demo, and then yeah, hopefully 5-10 minutes for questions at the end. So yeah, let's get started. So 360 is the only email marketing tool created for booksellers exclusively, and it was created to combat those sort of unique obstacles that booksellers face, and also to help take some of the labor of actual impactful outreach off your plate. So how does it work? If you have analytics, which you do need to have 360, then when you currently send a daily file from your POS system, whether that's Batchline, GuardLink, Booksolve, Square, those are some, potentially not all of the UK integration ones. And yeah, if you have those, you're integrated and sending us a daily file. And that has inventory data and sales data. And that allows you to create, when we combine it with publisher data in 360, to create customized, personalized email recommendations to your customers, and often actually informed by their interests using customer sales data and your stock levels. So it saves you a lot of time because it removes the need to copy and paste publisher data. We have all of that already. We have a wealth of it from publishers putting their catalogs on Edelweiss, which is Edelweiss's primary and first tool and use for indie booksellers. So it also helps you make informed marketing decisions quickly. So if you send us your customer sales data, which is currently only available for Batchline stores using loyalty cards, but it's in the pipeline with GuardLink. I know Dan was chatting to Michael at London Book Fair, so stay tuned if you're a GuardLink shop. Yeah, so you could send out a newsletter, say, to everyone who shops in the romance department of your store, and then you're sending book recommendations to people who actually are going to be interested in that, rather than hitting your full list of people who might not be interested in romance titles. And this customer data is only available to you and your staff, so there's no worries there with data breach or anything. And I did want to call out some of the design elements because, as part of the time saving, it's built into the ordering and title discovery process. So, when you're on a device and building an order, you can also add titles to campaigns as you go. And because, as a 360 store, you're already sharing your inventory history with us via analytics, you can easily view and pull titles that are on order, best selling, have large or small quantities on hand, and that all feeds through and is just a click away for you, essentially. So here's some examples. Here we have at the top, that's just a catalogue view. And then also those lanes we'll be taking a further look at later in the session. And those are actual 360 lanes, like your most ordered titles not yet published, most copies on stock, and also your best sellers. So again, time saving, it's giving you the options there right in front of you to create a campaign. And also, something that's very fun about 360 is it is also an avenue for collaborating with your staff and promoting the books that they're actually interested in and that they're interested in hand selling. And it is kind of a way of hand selling when you're not in the shop. So you can select positive staff reviews, which are done on Edelweiss, and you can add those to a campaign. And yeah, that's just a way to promote those titles. And you'll have a full lane, as is visible on that slide, of prose reviews by staff members as well as just positive staff reviews. And it basically goes in place of the title blurb. Next slide. And I just thought I'd start with, before the demo, a couple of newsletter examples. So we have Boulder Bookstore. That's a great example of a basically event only campaign. Kind of interesting. So I was on a panel with them in the beginning of the year, and they basically use 360 almost in a supplementary way. So I was initially stung a little bit, but it actually makes perfect sense. So they still use MailChimp or whatever other system they're using. And currently, if they just want to send out a quick list to all of their customers about an event, then they'll just stick a very quick event into their campaign and send that out to everyone. And then, of course, there's entirely the option there for you to do full newsletters as well. This is an example from the Little Bookshop. Also, an example of making it zing. We had a lot of questions about that, about how to really put some pizzazz in your newsletters. You can change the entire body color of your newsletter, and you can also feature sort of Canva design elements. So I don't know if my mouse shows up, but this little top section is actually an image that's been created in, I have to assume, Canva, but any sort of design creation tool, and then just paste it in, and it really does add a little bit of professionality and yeah, pizzazz. And also we have some examples from Redline Books here. So you can also use 360 to email your school and teacher contacts. It's a great way to, make sure you're in the forefront of these education people's minds. And yeah, so in this example, I think they were sending out a bit of information about a book that they could use for leavers gifts. And yeah, just hit everyone in that list and make sure that schools know what you do. Another good use of, reaching out to schools is just send out an email every now and again reminding education people of your school offers, whether that's events, facilitation, book fairs, and so on. And this is also some blurbs pulled from a different Redline campaign. So I thought this was a great example of, you don't have to put in tons of effort. You don't have to spend all of your time to put an impactful piece of information. So instead of a blurb, they've just written that this book comes with a tote, which is a great little tidbit of information that is going to be interesting to some people. And maybe people don't really need to know the blurb of the Odyssey, and if they do, they can just view that title on Redline's website. And similarly, they have this book here. They've added a little note that this book had an event with it, and they've just used it as another avenue to promote that event. Cool, so that's those examples. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and reshare it so we can begin the demo. Give me one moment. Okay, cool. So now we're on to Edelweiss and we're going to move on to the demo. So yeah, do just let Dan know if this is not the right screen, but hopefully you're seeing the Edelweiss homepage. And I'm starting here and not on Edelweiss 360 because we had a few questions about access. Hopefully you can't hear the work that's just started in the house next to me. But yeah, so 360 can be accessed from this icon up here. But if you know that you have access to 360 and you can't see this when you're on Edelweiss, it's most likely going to be because of this reason, which is privileges. So Edelweiss has a lot of different tools, whether that's ordering, analytics, 360, and you don't necessarily want everyone in your bookshop to have access to every single one of those tools. So we have settings for different privileges for different users. So if you go to your profile, which is always in the top right up here, just move that. You can go to your profile and account and basic information. Now, if you have user administration privilege, you'll be able to edit these privileges. And generally, if you're the manager, maybe even if you're the only user on your account, you will automatically have user administration. And that means I can go here. So again, just to reiterate, that was in the profile up here. and basic information. I have the ability to edit this. So I have 360 access there. And as soon as that's checked, then that symbol of 360 is going to appear on your homepage. Now, talking about colleagues, you can also edit those privileges for your colleagues. So if I go to account users up here, if you don't have anyone else on your account, make sure they're on there so you can collaborate on staff reviews and just add them, enter their email address here. And once they're here, you can click onto this and then edit their privileges as well and make sure they have 360 or make sure they don't have it if you don't want them to have it. And then just save that. So as I mentioned, 360 is sort of built into your workflow as a bookseller. So when you're doing your front list title orders, you can add titles to a campaign. So I could search for a particular publisher here. I could go to catalogs and see what's been shared with me by a rep. And I can check out one of these markups. So let's click into this HarperCollins one. And here we have some lovely titles and POS. And yeah, so we've got this title here. I could start an order by just clicking up here and creating a simple order, but I won't go straight into that right now. Maybe I see this title and I think that looks great and I'm going to order 5 of them. In that case, I want to add them to a campaign because I've got 5 of these on order and I'd like to start generating some pre-publication buzz. So all I need to do is go to add to campaign up here. So this is on the right of every title, generally above the quantity box. So just add to campaign. I could create a new one, which will simply just be, inputting a name for a new campaign, but I'm going to add it to this example one that already exists. And these are all the active campaigns currently. So I'm just going to add it there. And that's been added. And since we've been talking about reviews, I would also note that to the left of every title, under what we call the title actions, you can see review. So if I click that, there's the option to add an overall rating, to add a prose rating, which in this case we do want to be doing. Make sure you add a prose review if you want to include it in a newsletter. Also, do take note of all of the share options on here because you have the option to share this with friends, communities, and even the publisher. So if you're writing a horrible review, maybe don't tick publisher. But if you're writing a lovely review and you'd like to share it with the publisher, then go ahead. Sometimes publishers feature those reviews. I can't see an example here, but it will appear around this area of the title and yeah, just be a starred review. So yeah, that's reviews and adding it while buying. If you have a title that you've recently read, then just search for it up here and then you can review it that way. Okay, so now I'm going to go to 360 itself. So just select that icon up there. And it's worth noting that if you've never used 360 before and you're just getting ready with it, then as soon as you click into this icon, a sort of 360 wizard will pop up and it will ask you to input some basic information and then it will set up essentially the basics of a newsletter for you. So you'll input the logo, you'll add some information like your shop hours and so on, and then that informs every campaign that you create, but it can all be edited from preferences up here. So here we are. I'm just going to talk through the modules on 360, starting with campaigns. So this is where it all happens. This is where you create your campaigns. This is where you view your active campaigns. And generally collapsed under there is all of your completed ones with delivery information, click-through rates, converts, and the ability to view as well. You have the events module, and it's very simple to create events. I won't do one right now, but I'll show you what it entails, which is just filling out this information. And then once you submit that, you'll have the option to add a graphic. And that does need to be sort of letterbox dimension. I know that it's been a bit finicky for people before, but yeah, as long as it fits this slightly elongated or letterbox, then that's going to work. It's also just a nice way for staff to see upcoming events and for you to keep track of what's going on as a sort of another calendar. And then we have the analytics information coming into play. So this is all information that's coming from that daily file that we get from your POS system. The first one is your most ordered, not yet published titles. And you could filter by publisher, you could sort by date published. But again, this is just a great way of offering titles for a campaign to you. So you don't have to do too much thinking about, oh, what should I send out? I need to get a newsletter out. What do I put in it? Well, this is a great option because you have 20 Gruffalo Granny coming in and you want to make sure people know that. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to a campaign. And it has all of my active ones here. I could search for them. I'm going to add it to the example one. And that's successfully been added. And then the next one we have is your titles with the most copies in stock. And again, similarly, this is helpful because maybe, I mean, obviously a lot of these are World Book Day books, so we'll kind of ignore those. But you might have a number of titles that maybe are getting a little bit stale, and you think, okay, let me see if I can generate some buzz around them, put a lovely review next to it, and try and sell some of those. So I could go ahead and add that. I mean, generally, you'll know why titles are in here. It might be that you've ordered them for book club. It might be that they're World Book Day books. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the example campaign as well. And then we have your best-selling, recently published titles. And this in itself is a recurring campaign idea. You could just come to this lane and maybe, I mean, this is, I would recommend probably emailing a bit more than this, but every month you could come in here, select the top 5, 10, add them to a campaign, and then just simply say, hey, everyone, this is our best-selling titles at the moment. Check them out. You can also expand all of these elements. So I could take a further look and move past all the World Book Day books in there. And then below that, we have all the staff reviews that I've been talking about, bisected by positive staff reviews and then pros reviews. And you can have a little bit of a competition. So who's doing the most? Of course, Dan is way ahead of everyone with 141. And you can click onto those and hand pick a couple of titles or a few. So maybe let's do, this is a brilliant book. And let's add this one as well. Okay, and also at the end we do have collections, which is like your own list, almost like your own catalogue of titles that you've created in Edelweiss, which is a great way of featuring tons of books. You don't necessarily want them clogging up your campaign, but it will allow people to click into them and view them separately out of the campaign. Okay, before we move on to actually creating a campaign, I'm going to talk about customers. So that is found under where your logo is added, and under these customer details, you can see it says click here to add customers. We had a question about when we sent out the interest form for this webinar, a question about moving over from MailChimp, and it's a very simple process. MailChimp has some information, I don't know off the top of my head, about how to export, but it is really a simple export all customers, and then you can upload them here. So what you need for this file is at the very least first name, last name, and email, and then you can just add that, 3 separate columns, add that in there, and you can upload it. And you can also add people individually, which is great on the fly. So I could just add someone here, and I can also add a tag, and that's really going to help those specific or even niche mailing lists like education and schools. Maybe a teacher comes in and I just say, hey, do you want to be on our mailing list? We have loads of great events and options for schools. Just let me know your name and email address, and then I just tag them and create them. There is also like a sign up form that all of you have access to. I can show you later how to access that, but that's something you can put on your website, and then it's almost like a customer facing version of this where people can sign up. Okay, cool. So let's get into actually building out a campaign. So I'm going to go onto this example one, which is what we've been adding titles to from a catalogue and also from those lanes below. And you can see all of these titles. I can click here to rearrange if I want. Maybe Gruffalo Granny should have pride of place at the top. And we can also add from the search. So you could bulk add titles with the ISBN, which is actually great if you have a stack of titles beside you. You could also just scan them in there. But you can also just search. So let me search for one here. And I'm just going to click to add that. And you'll notice that it also gives you the option to search across Edelweiss. So when that's not ticked, you're searching across your inventory. So this is searching across Batchline for book bugs, and it's looking at all of the titles there. But of course, I can also search across Edelweiss, which has thousands of titles. And yeah, we can also add events from here. So I'm going to add one of the Bounce and Rhymes. Just go ahead and add that in there. And this is actually a little tip. I would recommend putting, I mean, this is just maybe a personal preference, but I would put events at the top because especially when you have a lot of titles, people might not scroll all the way and then they might miss that event that you've added in there. So that's just by clicking resequence your campaign email sections. And then I've just moved events to the top there. Okay, cool. So now we've got some titles, we've got an event. So let's actually go into the sort of preview builder, which I do by selecting preview and send with custom subject and message. So we have the basic email settings, like who's the email coming from, the subject and the message, which we'll look at a bit later, but already you can see that this has been built out. So this is what I mean when that wizard has set up those basic preferences for you. That's got the logo in there, and it's got a little footer with your email and your opening hours and your address and so on. So already we have a pretty decent email. And this is where, again, that time saving comes in. You could even just send this out. You know, that's not really anything to sniff at, I'd say. Like, it's got some lovely titles in there and it's got an event, and yeah, it's pretty simple. It's not, I think that would be great to send out to some of your customers, but of course I would also recommend putting in a tad more effort, and there's a few options in here for you. So let's start with the campaign title blurbs. So I've just opened the campaign title blurb section and you can see every single title that we've added in here. So let's say Gruffalo Granny, we just want to add in the basic publisher blurb. And you can do that by going to custom blurb. It's a little bit finicky. I mean, it says 0. There is always a custom blurb. So always, if you want publisher data, go to custom blurb and then press autofill. And we have all of this lovely information, which I definitely don't want all of that. And I can just press that, clean that up a bit. And yeah, let's say I'm happy with that and press save. So that's one blurb down. And you don't actually even have to add a blurb for every title. Maybe you just want the top 3 or so. But what we definitely want to do is add those staff reviews. So I picked a couple of reviews from Dan, and now you'll notice if I go into the title blurb and select staff review, was it nesting? You can see that there's actually one in there. And I can select that. I'm not even going to preview because I know it's going to be good. And yep, that's added there. And then we have another one here, staff review. Select that. And maybe let's add one more publisher blurb there. Cut that down a bit. And save. So we can see what this has resulted in if I collapse that down, and then we have all of these titles, and this one has a lovely professional publisher blurb. Same with this one. And here we go with Dan's take on nesting and my take on zone 1 there. So as you can see, it pulls through the profile picture from that user's Edelweiss account, and it really is instilling that hand selling feeling, like you're in the shop and you're talking to the specific booksellers who might have different tastes and are reaching different people with the books that they want to talk about. So that's another push to make sure your colleagues are on Edelweiss and make sure they're reviewing some titles. And yep, I've left those ones without any blurbs, which is fine. And these all automatically link to the BookBug's website, which is something that you set up in your preferences. So there we go. And that can link to bookshop.org as well, if that's your preference. And we did have a question about what to do if you don't list titles on your website, and that's completely fine. What I'd recommend for that, and I mean, this will differ for shop to shop, but you might have let me just go to contact, for example. Maybe you have a page on your website that says, if you'd like to order a book, email us, or fill out this form to order a book. I'd link titles to there, and you could set it so that every single title links to that page that says email us to order this title. And that's sort of a workaround if you don't sell books on your website. And yeah, you can also edit every specific title. So like I said, it's defaulted for BookBugs that every title links to the BookBugs online shop, but maybe I want this one to link to, I don't know, a special massive page on our website that we created specifically for this book, in which case I just edit that there. So there's different options for you. Okay, so that is the title blurbs. And then we also have the campaign email content settings. And this is where you can edit things like the name, the section headers, so it doesn't have to say upcoming events. You could say brilliant bonanza events we have coming up. And you could also change the button to say buy or view. And this is where you can also change the background color. So we talked earlier about adding a bit of pizzazz. That's where you can instill some pizzazz is here. So the background color and text color. Now, finally, you have the message section. So this is where you add in text and images. So let me just copy something in. You can keep it simple, just a little message, or you can add in a full newsletter. I really liked actually this previous BookBugs one. I'm not sure if I'm sharing it. I can show you in a second. But yeah, so that's how that message looks there. And I'll show you what a full sort of lovely example looks like. So this is a completed event from a completed campaign from BookBugs. And if I view it here, give it a second to load, you can see they've added in images, some lovely text, a few more images, and even a little plug for one of the events, and of course linking. This is another thing I'd recommend. So we have questions about how to really put a bit more effort into your campaigns, how to take advantage of all the elements, design elements, play around with text. Like you can do everything with the text that you could usually do in an editor, which is change the font size, make it bold. Definitely take advantage of that. And of course, we talked about the campaign color. So I set this example up where it is done with all of the brand colors. So if I preview and send that, it's got that lovely mustard in there, and yep, that's looking lovely. And this is kind of a step up, but if you or someone on your team has time and I guess design capabilities, you can actually almost create your whole newsletter in Canva if you'd like. This is for people who really want to go the extra mile and maybe want to have a bit more freedom with the message element of it. So what you can do is go into the message and select image. And I'm just going to hopefully find, here's one I made earlier. So, I mean, this is, please do better than this if you're going to do a Canva thing. This is something I literally made this morning. But you can see you could actually add in events like that. You could have a bit more freedom with the specific elements. Let me just save that and show you what that looks like. And yeah, there you go. So that really didn't take that long. I mean, you can tell, but it probably wouldn't, I would imagine, take about an hour to put something really lovely together for that. And we did see that example earlier from the little bookshop of even just a splash image up there. And yeah, of course, nothing is going to be clickable because this is an image. So I would still include little events at the end here. Okay, cool. And I'm just going to show you also in the completed events, you have the option to share. So that just creates a link. Let me just share that one. It might take a second to load. But what I'd recommend, maybe the week of sending a campaign, if you're not certain it's got to everyone or you just want to make sure it has extra visibility, I'd simply copy this link and put it on your social media and say, hey, here's our latest newsletter in case you missed it. Or maybe you want to upload them sort of blog style into your website. So that's a lovely way to make sure you have extra visibility on your campaigns. Again, just checking time. I think we're all right. Just collapse that. Okay, so one other thing I'm going to talk about in terms of campaign ideas is using analytics to create a top sellers list. So because you have 360, you will also have access to analytics. And we did see down here that you can see your bestsellers, which is great. You know, shops are going to be, customers are going to be interested in what you're selling well and what other people are enjoying. But you can do that on a larger scale with the whole indie trade with analytics. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that by jumping back into normal Edelweiss. Going to analytics, which again is a privilege thing up here in your profile. So if you don't have access to analytics, it might be that you don't have the analytics administrator privilege or analytics viewer privilege. And I'm going to click into that. Again, it's a similar idea. This is all information coming from your POS system and also from the 300 odd other indie bookshops in the UK, and it's been put together and anonymized. And here we have the most popular titles. So what I would do is go into this lane and view the titles in the grid. And that's going to give me a bit of a more nitty gritty view. And I'd select these and add them to a campaign. So it's up to you. You could maybe do the top 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever you want to do, and add them to a collection or add them straight here. And I did that earlier. So I selected the top 10 there and added them to a campaign. So now I have this list here, which is May top bestsellers. And every single one of these titles is selling really well in indie bookshops across the UK. Just preview that. And I could then go into the email content settings, and where it says titles you may like, I might change that to say May top bestsellers, maybe May indie top bestsellers. And that's what that looks like. And what's great about this is maybe I have a little custom message that says, hey everyone, back again with the top bestsellers for this month. We've got some great titles in here, a very generic message. And with these campaigns, so say I've completed one back in April, I could just copy that and it would keep all the design elements that I want. And all I need to do is switch out the titles. So that's one that you can set as a schedule almost. You could do that every month. You could do it every 2 weeks. It's up to you. And in terms of, a schedule, I guess, with 360, as hopefully you've seen, it's very easy to quickly put together just a simple list of titles in an event. I would recommend emailing at least a week, really at least every week. Sorry, it doesn't have to be a lot of effort at all, but you're making sure that you're reaching your customers. And it sounds a little bit weird, but reminding them that you are there and you are producing lovely events, that you've got brilliant books in, and just making sure that they know that you're there and you've got lots going on. So I'm just going to check something quickly. Oh yeah, so just in terms of a few more campaign ideas, I've seen quite a few recent events about Isadora Moon. So anyone in the children's book selling world has, of course, I'm sure, been bombarded with the information that there's a TV tie-in now. So this is where you can really take use of that targeting. So let's say, since we're going to be talking about customers now, I'm just in my general campaign here. I could just add all active customers, and that's 7,000 in this case. But you can get really cool with the targeting here. So let's say I'm going to go ahead. Let's create a new one, create a new campaign. Let's call it Isadora for now. And I'm going to add titles via the customers. So what that means is I'm going to go to add customers and I'm going to see, let's find an Isadora Moon title. So that one will do. Let's add a few more. So Isadora Moon helps out. So that's already 18 recipients who've bought that title. That's information coming from Batchline saying there's 18 people. I think it's time related as well. So in the last maybe 6 months or something. And you can see that the recipients keep increasing as I add more titles. And then I could go ahead and set up a little message and say, we've got a great new TV tie-in for Isadora Moon, come in and get your titles. And obviously that's going straight to people who actually have some interest in that and who aren't necessarily keyed into the world of Isadora Moon updates, are going to be thrilled to hear that there's some more books for their children there. So that's some of that targeting. I'll also show you what those tags look like. So say we have I just want to send out some information to a school. I mean, a school might be interested in the Isadora Moon stuff. I can go to add customer and I can find those tagged as education. And there we go. BookBugs in this case has 135 people tagged as education. And I can send that out. Right. I'm trying to think if I've missed anything. I will say we have a whole knowledge base for 360 as well. So that's accessed just from that little, I just clicked this little book icon in the bottom right here, and that has videos, help documents and everything. But hopefully this was a good beginner overview of how you build campaigns and how you build effective campaigns. I'm just going to stop sharing 1 second and we can move on to a Q&A. One moment. Okay. Let me just make sure I can see the chat. Okay, it looks like Dan, I think, has got all of the questions so far. And I saw, yeah, so you can just add a list of email addresses. It doesn't matter if you have the name. Let me just. But what's great if you do have the name is, hopefully I'm back on Edelweiss360, you can do something where you, in the message, you can say, hi, and then make sure I get this right. If you enter in that verbatim, so first name in those, I don't know what they're called, curvy brackets, that means when it goes out, if you have the name associated with that email address, it's going to say, hi Dan, hi Eve, which is just nice and easy. You don't have to work around that. And then if you don't have the name, it says hi valued customer. I don't know if everyone loves that, but yeah, that's what it will say. Cool. You can update all of your preferences as well. So I'll just show you what that looks like. The email template settings. This is really important actually. So if you haven't completed DNS, which is basically authenticating the ability to send emails rather, like mass emails and newsletters from your domain, then you need to make sure that your from address is set to no reply at aboventhetreeline.com. It's no dash reply at aboventhetreeline.com. If you ever find you're having issues with deliverability, it's likely that DNS has not been completed and you need to set that no reply address. That doesn't mean that everyone's going to get, all of your customers are going to get a load of emails from, it's not all going to say a load of above the tree line in their address, in their inbox. It's still going to say whatever you have set here. So that will come first and foremost. And all of the replies can still be set to go to one of your specific email addresses. And you can set the default for all of your campaigns. So whether it says buy or view for the title click button and for pre-order. And probably the most important thing in here, which, like I said, you do set up once you go through the initial 360 wizard setup, you can go to links here. And titles, this is deciding exactly where all of your titles automatically link to. This is where the contact us page goes to, and search and so on. Like I said, this can go to bookshop.org, and that's just a simple case of getting your affiliate number and putting it in a thread here, but we can help with that. I can't remember off the top of my head what the exact thread is there.
Just going to add with that, if your website doesn't use the ISBN in the URL like mine does, you can still do it by using your website search facility. So as long as your website is able to search by ISBN, you can still link directly to any of your products.
Yeah, that's great. Which is to say, yeah, if you don't have search by ISBN enabled at all, well, like Dan said, there is a workaround, but that's ideal. So if you go to your website right now and you can search for an ISBN and the book appears, then that's great. Your newsletters are going to work very well and go straight to your e-commerce, which is great for you and great for your customers. You also have your contact and address hours in here, so if you need to update that, you can. We do have customer app settings. I wouldn't worry too much about this. This is basically something we built when we first built 360, which is almost like a website for people who don't have book selling websites, but you don't need to worry about that. Your title shouldn't link there. We'll also might as well show you how to delete these so I'm not clogging up the BookBug's active campaign space. Just because I'm paranoid, I'm going to delete these customers. And I'm just going to delete that campaign. Okay, perfect. Is there any more questions in the chat?
No, they've gone suspiciously quiet. I think we're clear, Eve.
Okay, perfect. One thing I will just say I had in my notes, if you're looking for a campaign idea, you can call out Libro FM. That's just something very simple you could do. Maybe not all of your customers know that you use it. You could just create a simple campaign, put a little image in there that says, did you know we're on Libro FM? Put a link in there and then just, yeah, make sure that's shared out to everyone. Also, another piece of advice I heard from a bookseller using 360 in the US is they basically anything they put on social media, they put in a campaign and send it out. So if you're ever lacking ideas, just put your latest social media post within reason, in a campaign and send that out. I think if we've got no more questions, one moment, let me go to the. Got a question about a plugin.
Yeah, I linked to that. I thought I answered you, Trish. But I can answer that because we do that on our site. We don't have a plugin, but what we do have is a form that you can link to the sign up, basically. Eve, can you see the chat? I think.
Actually, yeah, I think maybe your replies have gone to hosts and panelists and not everyone.
Oh no.
We
Oh,
have we'll
oh,
have a
sorry.
transcript of the chat as well, so we can follow up afterwards with people if they're.
Oh, that's so silly. I will put my answers that I've put everywhere, or not put in the right place, in the chat now. So that's all coming in. Yes, so I use a plugin called Advanced Iframe on my WordPress website. All it needs then is the URL to the sign up form, which can be easily obtained through 360. That then gives you the ability to direct people to sign up on your website. Cliff, you asked if you could see who the failed recipients were. You can't at the moment. If it was essential for you to know, we do have a way in the back end to find those out for you. Oh, and somebody asked just how to sign up to analytics. So Eve, you can cover that probably. But I will put the link in the chat as well. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. So do reach out with any questions to support. Let me just drop that in the chat quickly. Okay, so I've just put our support address in there. So email that with any questions, whether that's questions about iframes or how do I sign up to analytics, and we can help you with the sign up process. Generally, I'd say, I mean, it can take a couple of days for the data to fully come through, but you can, as soon as you've accepted the terms, you have pretty much immediate access to 360. And yeah, I can't stress enough, make sure your colleagues are on there so you can get those reviews, and also just so they can read digital proofs, share books, make sure you're all on the same page with collections and things. And yeah, you can really email with any questions to that support address. And if you need extra help with setting up a campaign, then let us know. I think we are going to be able to email everyone after this, so I'll share the 360 training page And yeah. Oh yeah, I'll see if I can dig up that MailChimp export link.
Thanks, Eve.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty much time. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. I really hope everyone starts to use 360 a bit more. It genuinely is a brilliant tool. It's something I love talking about because I do think it's pretty intuitive and really easy to get quick and effective results from it. Edelweiss is a learning curve, but 360 is actually pretty easy to get set up with. So yeah, hope everyone enjoys using it and yeah, enjoys reaching their customers and sharing publisher and staff reviews. And I'm going to end this webinar. Thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, I'll be in touch with the recording and some help documents. And thanks, Dan, for monitoring the chat.
Thanks, Eve.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.